Noble students and families, I hope you're doing well today. This is Math Lesson 10.3. Let's get right into the video. It's going to be our last math lesson for this week, and this will give you a chance to get some caught up on some other assignments on Thursday and Friday if you're choosing to do the assignment on Wednesday. So let's go ahead and begin. So, Lesson 10.3 is on measuring time intervals. So our essential question is, how can you measure elapsed time in minutes? So elapsed time, we're going to find out what that means right down here. But first, our question is, Alicia and her family visited the Kennedy Space Center. They watched a movie that began at 4:10 p.m. That's important. And ended at 4:53 p.m. Also important. We want to know, how long did the movie last? So, to find elapsed time, we find the amount of time that passes from the start of an activity to the end of the activity. So, how long did it take to do something is essentially what we're finding when we find elapsed time. So, from the beginning, or the start of an activity, to the end. So, one way we can do that is to use a number line. We're going to find the time on the number line that the movie began. We're going to count on to the ending time, 4:53, and we can count on by tens for each 10 minutes and count on by ones for each minute. We're going to write the times below the number line. Okay? So, we want to start at 4:10 because that's when the movie started, and we want to end at 4:53. That's when the movie ended. Okay? So they started at 4:10 down here on the number line, and they added 10 minutes to get to 4:20. We're going to add 10 more minutes to get to 4:30. We're going to add 10 more minutes to get to 4:40. It's important to remember what our ending time is. So we got to get to 4:53. So when we get to 4:50, we want to stop and count by 1 minute. Okay? We're not to 4:50 yet. We're at 4:40. We're going to add 10 more minutes to get to 4:50. Now we're at 4:50, and now we can go ahead and count by ones until we get to 4:53. So 1 minute gives me 4:51. Another minute gives me 4:52. And one more minute gives me 4:53 is our end time. Now we can go ahead and add these numbers together. 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. We have that right here written down. Okay? 10, 20, 30, 40, 41, 42, 43. Okay, so we can skip count to add here. So the elapsed time from 4:10 to 4:53 is 43 minutes. So the movie lasted 43 minutes. So this is our first way, is to use a number line to find how long it took for an activity to happen. Let's go on to page 574. Here are some other ways. Okay? We can use an analog clock. That is way number one of our other ways. Okay? So what we can do is we can find the starting time on the clock. So the starting time is 4:10, which is already on the clock. So I'm going to go ahead and click undo for that. We already have 4:10, and we're just going to count by fives like we would normally. But instead of starting at the 12, we're starting at the 2 because that's what 4:10 is. Okay? So they're skip counting by fives. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Now, there's one thing I forgot to note before I started. I want to make sure I know where I'm going to end at. So what is good to do is find where 53 is on the clock, which they already found for us. They found that it's right here. Okay, so that helps us figure out where we need to count to. So that's an important thing to do if you're going to use this way. This is probably the least likely way that you're going to use. This is going to be probably the hardest way to do this. Okay? But this is a way you can do it. So we got to 40, and then we're going to count by ones for each little hash mark till we get to this hash mark right here. So 41, 42, and our last one gives us 43. So we know it took 43 minutes. Our last way is to use subtraction. This is the way that I most like to do this. In fact, it's the last way they're showing us to do it, but this is I feel the easiest way. The only trick with using subtraction is you have to be careful if you're starting an activity at, say, like 12:30, and you're going to, let's just say we're going to 1:30. Okay, so if I do subtraction here, and I do the end time, we always start with the end time when we subtract, and I subtract the beginning time, then 30 minus 30 is going to be 0, right? And 1 minus 12, I can't do that. 1 minus 12 would be negative 11. So anytime you're going from 12 to 1, it's tricky to do the subtraction. But if we're doing 2 times the end that start with like the hour of 4, it makes it really easy. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to write the ending time, then write the starting time so the hours and the minutes line up. So when we subtract, we always want to start with what happened at the end. So here the ending time is 4:53, so that will go first. And then we want to write the starting time, which was 4:10. Okay, and we're going to make sure everything lines up, which looks good. Okay, this is lined up, this is lined up, and this is lined up. So 3 minus 0 is 3, 5 minus 1 is 4, and 4 minus 4 is 0. I won't write anything there, so I know this is going to be 43 minutes. And notice that's the same answer that we got here. Okay? We're going to try this problem here using a number line and using subtraction. Notice that they are not using the analog clock method. I think this is the least likely way that you're going to choose to do this problem. I would suggest the number line or the subtraction method. I think the subtraction method is easiest, but number line method also works fine. Okay? So our start time is 10:05, our end time is 10:30. So remember, we want to put our start time here at the beginning, 10:05. Okay? And then we want to go ahead and we can count by tens until we get to our end time, which is 10:30. So we got to remember that our end time over here is going to be 10:30. So we go ahead and add 10. Right, and that'll get us to 10. If we add 10 to 5, we're going to get 10:15. We have to be careful of where we're at, okay? If we add another 10, we're going to get to 10:25. Okay, and now notice we're at 25, and we're pretty close to 30. So what could we add to 25 to get to 30? We could go by ones, one minute at a time, 26, 27, 28. But there's a much faster way. What do we add to 25 to get to 30? Think of your skip counting. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. We can add 5. Okay? And that will get us from 10:25 to 10:30. So 10 plus 10 plus 5. So 10 plus 10 is 20, plus 5 more is 25. So from 10:05 to 10:30, we found out equals 25 minutes. So the elapsed time is 25 minutes. So we can go ahead and check it with our subtraction over here. We have the end time, 10:30, minus the beginning time, 10:05. So 0 minus 5. Can I do 0 minus 5? No, I cannot. So I'm going to need to regroup. I'm going to need to borrow from the 3. We're going to make that a 2. We're going to make the 0 into a 10. And now we can solve. 10 minus 5 is 5. 2 minus 0 is 2. And 10 minus 10 cancel each other out. So we're left with an answer of 25 minutes, which matches up with our answer down here. So I'm going to highly suggest that you use letter B when you're doing these problems, if possible. Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to use, number 1, we're going to use the number line to find the elapsed time. Okay, we're going to use the number line. So we're starting at 1:15 and going to 1:40. So again, I'll put my end time down here as 140. And we will add tens, okay, until we get to 140. Okay? So adding 10 to 115 is going to get me 125. 15 plus 10 is 25. We'll add another 10 to get to 35. 135. Okay, getting close to 40 here. 35 plus what gives me 40. That's again, we're going to add 5 to get to 140. Okay, so 10 plus 5 again, which is what we had on the last problem. Again, our answer is going to be 25. For number 2, I'm going to skip using the number line, and I'm going to use the subtraction method instead. So I'm just going to set my problem up here. Remember, we want to start with our end time, so 11:54 is our end time, minus 11:35 is our beginning time. Okay, 4 minus 5 is something I cannot do. I'm going to need to regroup. Borrowing from the 5 gives me a 4, and getting those 10 ones gives my 4 into a 14. I'm going to do 14 minus 5, which is going to be 9. Do 4 minus 3, it's going to be 1, and my 11s cancel out to give me 19 minutes. Okay, now here is one where I would choose probably not to subtract. Okay, you could subtract, but I would probably choose not to. I am going to show you after I do the clock method how to subtract this one. Okay, so we're starting at 4:20, which is where it's at already, and we're going to 5 o'clock. So where would my minute hand be if we have 5 o'clock? Well, my minute hand would be up here on the 12. So I'm going to count by 5s around the clock until I get to the 12. Here we go. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. This one's nice because I don't have to count by 1 minute at all. I just count by 5s. So I ended with 40 minutes. So let me show you the subtraction method with this one. This is going to be very confusing, and this is why I would suggest not doing the subtraction method if you have a problem where your hours change. So this one's going from 4:20 to 5 p.m. So this is why I would not suggest using the subtraction method here, but I'm going to show you what happens and how it looks. So if I'm going to subtract, I'm going to start with my end time, which is 5 o'clock, and I'm going to subtract my beginning time, which is 4:20. Now, you're going to notice, I can do 0 minus 0 is 0. Okay? Now, I cannot do 0 minus 2, so I'm going to need to go over here, and I'm going to borrow from the hours, and I'm going to change my 5 into a 4, which is fine. But normally, when I change my 5 into a 4, I get 10 whatever to replace this and change this into a 10. However, we don't want, because we're doing hours and minutes, we don't want to change this into a 10. Okay? If we change it into a 10, then we're going to have 10 minus 2, which is 8, and that would be 80 minutes. We actually want to change it into a 6, because there are 60 minutes in an hour. Okay? And I'm going to have 6 minus 2 is 4, and now you'll see that my answers match up. 4's cancel out. Okay? So that's why it's confusing, because when I regroup, normally I would give 10 units to the next place next to it, but here for hours we would give 6 units. So that's why it's quite confusing. Okay? I would not suggest doing subtraction if your hours change. So for your assignment, you're going to be doing numbers 4, 5, 6, and 7. For these questions, you'll notice that all of them, the hours are staying the same. 8 to 8, 10 to 10, 9 to 9, and 2 to 2. So I would highly suggest using the subtraction method for all of these problems. What I mean by that is you're going to do 8:55 for the first problem minus 8:35. Okay, remember you always want to start with the end time and subtract the start time. So I would suggest doing this method for each problem. It's going to make it the easiest for you. You can use the clock if you want. and try it that way. Or you can use the number line if you want and try it that way. But I think the easiest method is to do subtraction. But it's up to you, whatever you think is easiest. Okay, you're going to do these 4 problems, and that is your assignment. Please let me know if you need any help at all. I'm here to help. Be happy to help you figure out those answers. Other than that, it's going to be Mr. Koblenz out. Have a great day, and have a great rest of your week.